Okay, so if you're even remotely paying attention to AI right now, you've probably heard two terms just everywhere. I'm talking about Agentic AI and RAG. That's Retrieval Augmented Generation. They're definitely the talk of the town, but they also come with a ton of hype and honestly, some pretty big misunderstandings.
So, the big question is, right, is all this hype real? Is agentic AI really the future? Is RAG the magic bullet for every problem? Well, the classic consultant's answer is, it depends. The truth is, it's a little more complicated than that. It really all boils down to how you put these incredible tools to work. So let's dive in and figure out what they are, and more importantly, what actually makes them tick.
A lot of people hear Agentic AI and they immediately think, oh, that's just a fancy new way to write code. And for RAG, the assumption is it's this magical solution for any knowledge-based problem. But honestly, that's barely scratching the surface. Real Agentic AI is about automating entire workflows top to bottom. And a RAG system that actually works, well, that's all about strategy, not just dumping a bunch of data into it.
All right, so let's kick things off with AI agents. What are we really talking about when we say that? Because I can tell you, it's a whole lot more than just a fancy chatbot.
Okay, at its heart, Agentic AI is all about building systems that can think and act for themselves. Seriously, imagine a system that can look around, see what's going on, that's perceiving its environment, then it can make a decision, and then actually do something to hit a specific goal. And the key part, it does all this with minimal, and I mean minimal, human handhold.
And this whole thing isn't a one-and-done deal. It's a continuous loop. It's always running. So first, the agent perceives its world, just gathering up all the relevant info. Then it takes a moment to reason. It taps into its memory, figures out a plan. After that, it's time to act. Maybe it calls an API, maybe it uses some other tool. And finally, the crucial step, it observes what happened. Did it work? What was the result? It learns from that, and boom, the cycle starts all over again.
Now, the coding team example is a great one. You see it all the time. Agents acting as the architect, the developer, the code reviewer. But listen, the potential here is so much bigger than that. Just think about it. You could have agents automatically handling complex customer support tickets or sorting through HR requests. Or what about an autonomous router that instantly sends a customer's question to the exact right specialized agent to answer it? They're basically digital employees using the same tools we do, just at lightning speed.
And this idea, it completely changes our job description. I love this quote because it nails it. Our job is no longer to play a single instrument. Instead, we become the conductor of the orchestra. We're the ones guiding this whole symphony of agents to create something truly incredible.
But of course, there's a catch. There's always a catch, right? An agent, no matter how powerful, is kind of useless if it doesn't have good information. Without access to reliable, external facts, it can just make stuff up. We call that hallucinating. And this is where RAG comes into the picture. Think of RAG as the agent's external brain.
So what is RAG, really? Simply put, it's a system that connects a large language model to your own specific, up-to-date knowledge base. This is what grounds the model's answers in facts, in reality. It's the leash that keeps it from just wandering off and inventing things.
When you look at how a RAG system works, it really breaks down into two main parts. You've got the offline phase. This is all the prep work, building and organizing your library of knowledge before anyone even asks a question. And then you have the online phase. This is the real-time magic, where it finds the perfect piece of information on the fly to answer a user's question.
Let's look at that offline part first, the ingestion. The system starts with all your documents. Could be PDFs, Word docs, web pages, you name it. It then chops them up into smaller, more manageable pieces, or chunks. Now here's the cool part. Each one of those chunks gets converted into a unique numerical fingerprint. We call this an embedding. It's like a coordinate on a map for that specific piece of information. Finally, all these fingerprints get stored in a special kind of database, a vector database, which basically creates this super fast, searchable map of everything you know.
Okay, so now what happens in real time when someone actually asks a question? Well, their question also gets turned into one of those numerical fingerprints. The system then just zips through that vector database, instantly finding the chunks of text whose fingerprints are the closest match. It grabs, say, the top 3 or 5 of those, packages them up as context, and sends it all, the context and the original question, over to the large language model. And what you get back is a beautiful, fact-based answer.
Sounds pretty perfect, doesn't it? Just dump all your data in and poof, you get perfect answers. But yeah, if it were only that simple. This is exactly where things can go wrong.
We're about to hit the limits of what we call a naive RAG approach, where, believe it or not, just adding more data can actually make your results worse.
And that brings up a really important question, one that a lot of people get wrong. So why isn't more information always a good thing? Why is it that just throwing every single document your company has ever created into a RAG system can totally backfire?
It all comes down to the law of diminishing returns. Take a look at this. As you give the model more context, yeah, the accuracy goes up, but only to a point. There's a sweet spot, and once you go past that optimal point, performance doesn't just level off, it actually starts to go down. Too much context just becomes noise, and the model literally gets lost in the weeds trying to find the needle in the haystack.
And these aren't just abstract problems, they have real consequences. First, your recall gets worse. The model just can't find the right answer in all that noise. Your costs skyrocket because you're paying for every single token you process. Your app gets slow because more data means longer wait times. And all that extra irrelevant junk, it can actively confuse the model, so you end up with answers that are actually worse, not better.
Okay, so if more data isn't the answer, then what is? Well, this is where we have to get smart. We have to move away from that naive, just dump it all in, approach to something much more nuanced, a smarter RAG strategy. And honestly, the difference between these two is night and day. The naive approach, it's basically a data dump. Smarter RAG, that's all about intentional, careful curation. Naive RAG uses a simple search. Smarter RAG uses advanced tricks like hybrid recall and re-ranking. And the results, well, they're exactly what you're hoping for. Way better accuracy, much lower costs, and a system that's actually fast.
So how do you build one of these smarter systems? It really comes down to two key areas: how you ingest your data and how you retrieve it. On the ingestion side, you have to be deliberate. That means cleaning up your data, turning that messy, scanned PDF into clean text and enriching it with helpful things like metadata. Then, on the retrieval side, you have to engineer the context. This means using a hybrid search that can find both exact keywords and the general meaning. And then you re-rank the results to push the absolute best, most relevant info right to the top. That's how you build the perfect, bite-sized piece of context for the model.
Oh, and here's a little bonus for you, something that's becoming a massive game changer. You don't have to be locked into paying for expensive APIs from the big guys to do all this. You can actually power this entire system using open source models that you run yourself, locally.
And the benefits of doing that? They are huge. First off, cost. You get to say goodbye to those per-call API fees, which can save you an absolute fortune. Second, data sovereignty. All of your private, sensitive information stays on your own systems, period. And third, customization. You can actually tweak the model and the runtime to squeeze out every last drop of performance and speed.
So let's bring it all home. What's the final takeaway? Look, agents plus RAG, it is an absolutely killer combination. There's no doubt about it. But just having the tools isn't the same as having a winning strategy. So the real question you need to ask yourself is this: are you building your system to actually win? Are you being thoughtful and strategic about your data, about your retrieval? Or are you just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks? Because that right there, that's the difference between a system that works and one that's a costly failure.